I'm PG, I'm chillin', and in this video I'm going to fill out a bracket of the best hip hop albums of the 2020s. And this is going to go from the year 2020 to 2023. Of course, this year is still going on, and so we're just going to start off with the first 4 years of the decade, starting with 2020. Now, I did find a bracket on let's get a bracket. Did find a bracket on bracketfights.com. It was good, but it missed a few slots and a few albums that I think should be on the bracket. I'm sure as I go through this, you guys are going to be like, oh, this is missing. Oh, you hip hop nerds are going to be like, oh, where's Billy Woods? No Billy Woods representation, or little XYZ milkshake, blah, blah. Something's going to be missing. Someone's going to be missing from this. Some album will be missing, I'm sure. But I feel like the bracket originally, and I feel like this bracket has representation on all fronts. We have some mainstream, some trap, conscious hip hop, some abstract hip hop as well. Obviously, we have to have some popular albums in there. So I think this bracket is good and covers all grounds. Let me know your thoughts on the bracket, what's missing. If you like the video. I hope you enjoy it. And of course, as always, please smash that subscribe button. Feel free to check out the channel for more content. Now, time to get this thing started. So we're going to start off here on the left side. So to start things off, we have Joey Badass's 2000 versus Freddie Gibbs' Alfredo. One of the best albums of that year. By the way, 2000 was 2022, which is the first year I started my channel, started doing reviews. Probably easily the best year for hip hop out of these 4 years. But nonetheless, as much as I like Joey Badass and that album, does not compare to the great chemistry between The Alchemist and Freddie Gibbs, and such a great project. I'm gonna go with Alfredo. Next we have, an interesting one. I know what the bracket looks like. Cheat Codes versus Call Me If You Get Lost. Now I know there's a lot of Tyler fans, cult fan base, and I know they swear by this album, and I do like this album. In fact, Tyler Creer, I didn't like him in the beginning of his career, but as his catalog and as he's progressed as an artist, I do really appreciate his work, and especially this album. But that being said, I can already feel the dislikes coming, and oh, how could you? I really enjoyed Cheat Codes. That one really grew on me. And Black Thought is just he's a lyrical mastermind, and really some of the most interesting production from that year, from any year in this decade. So from Danger Mouse. So I'm gonna go with Cheat Codes. Next we have The House Is Burning, which was, I believe, this is 2021. Yeah, Battle of the 2021 albums versus Donda. Now, I do really like both these albums, and of course, I have a lot of Kanye material on my channel. Check that out. Do really like Ye. He's my favorite artist, but putting that bias aside, I gotta judge this, and it's tough to put aside because I do like Donda. For Donda's, as lengthy as a project as it is, it has some of the best songs of that year on it, including bangers and just things that hit you, like Come to Life or 24. And Isaiah Rashad, it's a good project, a great project, but I'm picking Donda. JID's The Forever Story versus Conway the Machine's God Don't Make Mistakes. This is a tough draw for God Don't Make Mistakes, because JID The Forever Story is, I think this is his best album, and one of the best, if not what's heralded by the internet as the best album of 2022. That's how long it's been for me. So my first year of doing reviews. Anyway, The Forever Story is just as a masterpiece in its own right. Great writing, great soundscape as well. I'm going with The Forever Story. Now we have a battle of toxicity. We have two toxic albums from the same year too. Yeah. We got Her Loss versus I Never Liked You. So, you can argue that Wait For You is the best song between both these albums, but there's so many bangers, and Her Loss is just so memorable, and can't deny the chemistry between 21 and Drake. Gonna go with Her Loss. Now we have It's Almost Dry versus Michael from Killer Mike last year. And this, well, I know this won a bunch of Grammys, and It's Almost Dry is a phenomenal album. And could be debated to be better than Daytona. I give a slight edge to Daytona, but It's Almost Dry is, obviously super well produced by Ye and Pharrell, Pusha T, all killer, no filler, as great as Killer Mike's material and journey he takes you through on Michael. I'm still taking Pusha T here. With Battle of Metro Boomin Projects, we got Heroes and Villains versus Savage Mode 2. And as good as the chemistry is between Metro and 21 Savage, I would argue Savage Mode 1 is better. And Heroes and Villains is just the production, the aesthetic of this album, and what Metro Boomin was able to do. Just sonically overall, is great. And one of the best songs, Superhero, of that year. So yeah, it's heat. So congrats to Metro on all the success. I'm going with Heroes and Villains. Now we have an interesting matchup. I just really got into JPEG Mafia kind of last year or two. Obviously that album, we'll talk about it later, but Scaring the Hose helped in that, and discovering him. This is LP, and it's a good album. Again, I still need to kind of work my way up into really appreciating him. I do appreciate what he's done and what I've heard in his production style, but The Alchemist here and Larry June, one of my favorite and one of the best albums of last year. It's just so smooth. It's really, literally a ride, as you see here. Larry June isn't the best rapper, but just the combination of the two makes for a great album. I'll try to go through these quicker, but I'm going with what many would consider, or at least in the internet review community, an upset. I'm going with The Great Escape. Looks like we're going to finish up the left side of the bracket. That's how bracketfights.com works, so let's do that. Like I said, Cheat Codes is great, production's great, but production's great on both of these, and I'd give the edge there to The Alchemist. Now, Black Thought is a better, bar for bar, the better rapper than Freddie Gibbs, but I just think the way Alfredo is curated and chefed, is better than it's a better album than Cheat Codes. Donda versus The Forever Story. I said I had to remove my bias, and objectively speaking, The Forever Story is a better album. So, do with that what you will, but I may be going back to Ye's a bit more. There's just so many songs on it, but The Forever Story is just The Forever Story is great. So I'm gonna continue with Jid. Now we have a battle here in a real life beef. We got Drake and 21 Savage versus Pusha T, and Her Loss, full of bangers. It's Almost Dry also has some bangers, but let's just forget the banger battle. Let's just say what it is. I think Her Loss is just not as good. Bar for bar, not as good as It's Almost Dry. And although there are some really strong highlights on the album, there's also some few lowlights, and I think It's Almost Dry is just the most consistent piece of art here, and it's I like what Pusha T brings to the table more than what 21 and even some of Drake on that album is doing. So I'm gonna go with It's Almost Dry. Great album. Heroes and Villains versus The Great Escape. Oh man, there's a little bit of bias there because I love The Alchemist and what he does. Again, we get two super producers here. I'm probably gonna, people are gonna end the video at this point, because when I'm about to surprise everyone here, I'm gonna go with, this is what I prefer, and what I'm actually going back to this album more. I know it came out last year versus Heroes and Villains in 2022, but I really enjoyed, and I really like the smooth jazzy soundscape, and just overall with The Great Escape. The Great Escape, both of these have their own concept and theme. It's a smooth cruise. It's a escape from life, and with some life advice in the middle of it from Larry June. So I'm gonna keep talking myself into circles. Doesn't matter. Y'all gonna hate me. Most of you are gonna hate me anyway. So I'm going with The Great Escape here. Now we have Alfredo, Alchemist again at it, versus Jid's The Forever Story. The Forever Story, which I know again a lot of people they love The Forever Story as a people already claiming it's a classic. And I like Jid a lot, but it's just one of those things where which would I rather play in the whip or just even chilling? And I'm sorry, I'm going with Alfredo. I know that I feel like everyone would just put Forever Story right in the championship, but I'm gonna go with Alfredo, going with the sauce. It's Almost Dry versus the Alchemist. It's funny, outside the Forever Story, this Elite Eight here, or these Final Four on the side, it's really been a lot about the production, the producers behind it. Because you have the Alchemist here, Alchemist and Alfredo, and now we have Ye and Pharrell in this one. And I'm not gonna bore you with another upset because I genuinely feel like it's Almost Dry. Yeah, it's Almost Dry is the better album. Who are we all kidding? Who am I kidding? Now we have the final two on the left side, or this Final Four matchup. I wish bracket fights worked differently so that it kind of did back and forth, and then we get to a Final Four. Nonetheless, it's not my first rodeo, not my first bracket here. Like I said, production-wise, you couldn't say it's split between the two. Can't really decide between the two. It's tough. It's tough. And we're both Coke rappers. That's something. So they have that in common. You could argue who's the better performer now. That makes it interesting. Who's the better performer, rapping performer here? I also feel like it was kind of a cheat code to have Ye and Pharrell. Actually, I expect It's Almost Dry with those production credits to be even a bigger album or better album than it actually came out to be. But that's just that high expectations, high bar. You know what? I'm just gonna say it. I like Alfredo better. And again, you could put biases aside all I want. But I do remember in Spotify for that year and my Wrapped and what I genuinely enjoyed that year, Alfredo and Freddie Gibbs came up a lot. I don't know if it was my number one played. Freddie Gibbs was definitely my number one artist that year. I remember because I was in the 1 or maybe 0.1% of his listeners. So, Freddie, give me a shout out. You're not watching this. You're busy doing listening parties now with you. Anyway, yeah, I bumped Alfredo hard. Pause. I'm taking Alfredo here. Still go back to it. Now moving on to the right side, we have Denzel Curry's Melt My Eyes, See Your Future versus The Melodic Blue by BB Keem. This is a pretty interesting matchup. But I don't want to have to go into the comparison of the two. As much as I like BB Keem and the way his delivery is, how also consistent the album is thematically, and I think in rapping wise, and pretty much every category, I think Denzel Curry checks the box over. So I'm going with Melt My Eyes, See Your Future. Great album. Now we have Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers by Kendrick Lamar and Kid Cudi's Man on the Moon 3. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here around and BS about how I love Kid Cudi and whatever, he saved my life. Anyways, but as much as I heavily enjoy Man on the Moon 3, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that's objectively a better album than Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. You know that meme of Wesley Snipes? I think it's Wesley Snipes where he's got the gun, but he's got a tear in his eye. This is me putting down Kid Cudi and Man on the Moon 3 because I love that album, but I know it's not better than Mr. Morale. So don't make me do it. Mr. Morale advances, of course. Now we have the off season versus Tant Talk 4. Yes, Tant Talk 4. So this is it's a pretty good matchup considering both of them on Johnny P's Caddy from 2022. One of the best songs of that year. J. Cole killed it on that. I mean, Benny the Butcher's good, but that was J. Cole. J. Cole took over that song. Actually, was Johnny P's Caddy on this? Yeah, Johnny P's Caddy is on the album. That's right. It's on this album. So even on that, just like that song, J. Cole is gonna get the best of Benny the Butcher. The off season's a better album. Both great, but I'm gonna go with it's the off season. Can't wait for the fall off. Yeah, I made this. Yeah, I made this obviously intentionally because we have Pray for Haiti versus Pray for Paris. Both great. Yeah, they're both 2020 albums. Yeah, I mean both great, and they both really are impactful in terms of influencing, in terms of putting Griselda on the map. In terms of putting Griselda on the map, the Griselda aesthetic on the map. Jesus Christ, I can't talk. You obviously have Conductor Williams on both of these. Derringer as well. I believe Derringer's on Pray for Haiti. But nonetheless, production, aesthetically speaking, I mean, we know who the better rapper is in terms of performance and just lyrically. Obviously, it's Mac Homie, what he's saying there. But there's no denying just that cultural impact I was talking about, the curation ability. This is, when I think of a Griselda album or a West Side Gun album, or when I think of the sound that I want a Griselda album to sound like, it's Pray for Paris. And as much as I like Pray for Haiti, does Pray for Haiti even exist without Pray for Paris? I mean, you know what I'm saying? And Pray for Paris is just, I think it's, to me, I think it, maybe it'll take a couple of years, but I think it's gonna be a classic. So, West Side Gun, Pray for Paris, advances. It's Nas, King's Disease 3 versus Soul, Sold Separately. And if you are following my content at all, I had a video about obviously my top 10 albums for 2022. And I'm not gonna say who number one was, but I gotta go based on that logic as well, and what I would rather bump or play today, and obviously what I objectively think is the better album. And I think, yeah, even on all fronts, KD3 is better. So I'm gonna go with KD3. As much as I like Freddie Gibbs, this was a Freddie Gibbs album that is not advancing to the finals. So give me KD3, what I think is the best album between Hit Boy and Nas on this run that they've been on. This has been their best project, or magnum opus, so to speak. I'll just keep going. So KD3. Now we have last year's. We got Scaring the Hoes, JPEG Mafia, and Danny Brown versus Let's Yeet Afterlife. I think that's what it's called. I mean, I know there's a lot of Yeet fans out there. He's a big deal now. Just dropped an album, but I don't have to explain much here. It's JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown. We're going to scare Hoes a little bit more here because we have Utopia versus Whole Lotta Red. This is a pretty... I already know what I'm going with. It's still an interesting match. It actually is an interesting matchup because they're both kind of unique and they both kind of mold a certain sound as well, for the coming years even. Utopia, even though it just came out last year, it's... that's just me. I love Travis, and I think as much as Whole Lotta Red has some value, and it grew a lot of people, surprised a lot of people, and it really did create a newer wave, that Playboi Carti Rager-esque wave. I'm taking Utopia. Utopia, the soundscape. I talked about this ad nauseum last year in my rankings and my reviewed the album. So who we kidding here? So it's Utopia. It's the better album. Lastly, we have like I said, I tried to incorporate all facets of the genre. So, like I said, people, where's Billy Woods? Well, guess what? We got here Lupe Fiasco versus Lil Sims. We have Drill Music and Zion versus Sometimes I Might Be Introvert. Not the best British accent there. But anyway, this is a really good matchup. Maybe the closest matchup I'll have in this round one for last. Lyrically, Lupe is a lyrical genius and really a wordsmith. You really gotta reread everything this dude's saying. Great album, kind of went under the radar in 2022. But Sometimes I Might Be Introvert is also in its own right. This is putting Lil Sims on the map, and for those who don't know, she is a phenomenal UK rapper. I've compared her to Lauryn Hill. I don't know if she's better. I'm not gonna say she's better. I'm just saying you can compare her to that. Great conscious rapper, very soulful, graceful. One might say, just the way she delivers and how confident she is also at the same time. This is a really good album. So, I mean, I'm not going back to either of these that much, but I gotta give credit where credit's due. It's gonna be Sometimes I Might Be Introvert, and I'm always introvert. Anyway, continuing on. How many stupid jokes can I do in a video? Again, I can't contradict myself, but also I have to be true to myself. Which album is better? And I did do you go back to my rankings of 2022. I actually didn't have either of these as the number one spot. for that year. You gotta check that out. But anyway, both great. But I think the meaning behind them, they're both great in meaning too. But it's gonna go to Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers here. And low key is a lot of bangers on that as well. The off season versus Pray for Paris. Ooh, this is an interesting one. Take a shot for every time I say this is an interesting one. Both great for different reasons. One's more traditional hip hop than the other one. Pray for Paris is more of an abstract. Again, just the way the production is. It's more of a, Westside Gunn isn't, like I said, it's not a great rapper like J. Cole, but just the aesthetics, this like very gaudy and luxurious vibe, just the soundscape on Pray for Paris is just something else, and really did inspire a wave of underground abstract rap for this coming decade, and just so many other projects. Without Pray for Paris, we don't get a lot of great albums in the underground sphere. So, and now they're making their way up. They're making influences, not just underground now. The off season's great, not as good as Pray for Paris. That's just where I stand. KD3 versus Scaring the Hose. See, me and these internet blogger people who type up the reviews online. This is where we differ, because I appreciate what's on KD3 more than I appreciate Scaring the Hose, and maybe I just need more time to appreciate or listen to guys like Danny Brown, JPEG Mafia. I like Danny Brown though. I've always liked Danny Brown. JPEG Mafia, again, it's been a year or two I've gone into him, and as wild as this album sounds, just with samples and all the stuff that's curated in it, it's a fun album. But objectively speaking, I think KD3 is the better album. He's saying some of Nas's best writing in years, and Hit Boy also. The production's great on both of these. I mean, it's really at this point, because these two albums are so different, it's really just a matter of preference, what you'd rather listen to, or what your ears just prefer. This album's wild and it's fun, but I'm going with KD3. Now we have, speaking of, this is even more polar opposites than the other album. We have Utopia, psychedelic, not bar heavy, but still a amazing soundscape, psychedelic, spacey vibe, atmosphere, all that, versus the conscience hip hop, and sometimes I might be introvert. Also, enjoyability factor. You can say objectively what's better, not material wise and all that stuff, but I just rather listen to Utopia, and I actually think it is the better album. I think it's just the way it's put together. Sonically, it's something, man. So it's an experience, and you got to value that also when judging two albums. So I'm gonna go with Utopia. Next round, this would be the Elite 8 for the right side, and it's a tough matchup. Everyone's going crazy. Everyone's like, "Oh, Mr. Morale, just put her in the championship, just like Forever Story. Just put her right in, because Kendrick Lamar is, goated. And I'm not saying he's the GOAT, but I mean, in this new era, this modern era of the last 10 years, it's tough to argue that he's not the best of this era. See, this is, like I said, sometimes you just gotta go with the gut and what you think was a better experience listening wise, and also what's pleasing on the ears, and what you prefer. At the end of the day, it's what I prefer, and what I think is objectively the better album. So it's a mix of all these things. Man, let's just break it down. So content wise, obviously it's gonna go to Mr. Morale. Rapping performances, going to Kendrick Lamar again. Lyrically, it's going to go to Kendrick. Production, I'm going with Pray for Paris. Replay value, man, it's tough. See, I've cornered myself already, because I could go with my gut all I want, because I just want to say Pray for Paris, but defending it against Mr. Morale is just so tough, because outside of my gut and how I appreciate what Westside Gunn and what Griselda have brought to the table of hip hop that no group has done in a while. You can argue Migos for the trap subgenre, but I think overall with Griselda, the wave is just different, especially for the East Coast. Oh man, I hate picking against Griselda, but we're gonna have to go with. Like I said, I put myself in a corner here because if I break down all the elements, if you break down elements and the criteria of what's a great album, what's a better album, then Mr. Morale's gonna win. So I gotta be honest with myself. Yeah, let's put Mr. Morale in there. Try to justify it. I am sorry, my mentor. I have failed you. KD3 versus Utopia. Man, it's tough to. Maybe I should go with my gut because it's tough to really grade albums on the same level when they sound totally different. And that's, again, same thing here. Production-wise, as great as Hit Boy is on that one, I'm still going with Utopia production-wise. Lyrically, content-wise, obviously KD3 is going to win. But now I'm backtracking my other one because now it just comes down to just pure listening experience and replay value. Because I know which one's better content-wise. It's obvious. Just by the rapper names alone, you know what lyrically what one brings to the table and one doesn't. But at the end of the day, you gotta go with feeling as well. So, also curation-wise, I mean, Utopia's great. I mean, you could like K-pop and like one or two other songs on there, and it's nearly flawless, honestly. If you do that, you know, and put the lyrics aside, I'm going with Utopia. I'll just spoil it. This is what I crowned the best album of last year. It was a tough one to compare it to Scaring the Hose. I think that was my 1 and 2. I went Utopia. I'm going Utopia here. That's what I'm doing. Now we get to our final 4 or final 2 on this right side. Utopia versus Mr. Morale. I almost want to. Do I just redact my pick here because now I'm just basing it purely on this is just one of those things. It's music. You can't explain it, and analytically or put side by side comparisons for each of these categories because at the end of the day, it's music and what is just sonically appealing or listening experience, which I think Utopia trumps probably all the albums on here. If we're being honest with you, for being honest with myself or ourselves, really. So. I'm not going to go back and put Pray for Paris. Everyone's like, how dare you? He's not better than Kendrick Lamar. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying what album is better. And to me, Utopia is a better album. Listening experience. Enjoyability is going to matter too. And let's face it, in 3 years from now, I think people are going to go back to Utopia more. And I think this whole album may move up the rankings of Travis Scott's discography. I mean, people say Rodeo, people say Astroworld. I say Astroworld, but it's really like a 1A, 1B at this point. Who knows? Utopia might be number 1 by then. So, going with Utopia. Now we're down to the final 2 of this bracket. We have Alfredo from 2020, and we have Utopia from 2023. I think this is a fair finals matchup for this decade so far. I already know in my back of my head, like, I think a lot of people would have the Forever Story in here, but I'm gonna go with. I went with Alfredo, and then with Utopia on the other side. Again, it's just one of those things. This is my bracket, okay? I'm picking it. Mine. It's mine. My precious. I'm just trying to think. See, the thing is, I've had more time with Alfredo. This makes it also tougher to judge because I've had like 3 years with Alfredo, and we have actually at this point actually less than a year with Utopia. Of all the albums here, I think it definitely is the best soundscape, or at least an attempt at a grand atmospheric soundscape than all of these, I think. Rapping lyrically, it's Freddie Gibbs, and Freddie Gibbs you can. Yeah, I mean, it depends on performance-wise. It depends on what you prefer, and I do love what The Alchemist brings to the table on Alfredo as well. and Utopia's just like a expensive psychedelic experience, and you have production from various guys, and Mike Dean, of course, has his fingerprints all over that thing. At the end of the day, I gotta go with the gut, and I gotta go with, in terms of being analytical and data, Alfredo was my number one. Freddie Gibbs and Alfredo were my number one listened to artist and album of 2020. Now as for Utopia, Scaring the Hose actually appeared on my Spotify more than Utopia. Oh no, The Alchemist was my top artist, excuse me. And then Scaring the Hose was all over my song, the Spotify rap song list of played songs. I'm just saying that if you look at that year, look at 2020, when Alfredo came out, and 2023 when Utopia came out, I played Alfredo more in that year than I did with Travis Scott's Utopia. Now, I can also backtrack and argue, well, Alfredo was out early that year, whereas Utopia came out in, I think, July, late July, early August. So, you can argue that. There's so many ways to go about it. I've spent already too much time on this. I'm just going to close my eyes, go with the gut, and go with some analytics. I'm going to go with Alfredo. There you have it. My number one album of the 2020s decade, much to the chagrin of many internet nerd, hippie, music reviewers, whatever they want to say. I have Alfredo as my number one after it's all said and done. I mean, who knows? I mean, there's been a lot of great albums in this decade so far. And like I said, 2022 had a lot of great albums. Probably the best year for hip hop in this decade. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go with 2020's Alfredo. And who knows how the matchups may have been sorted differently. Maybe Alfredo would not have been the winner. There's so many great albums here. I mean, I could do this bracket in a week or so, or even next year, and we may have a different result. But for now, I'm picking with Gangsta Gibbs, Freddie Gibbs, and Alfredo, along with The Alchemist. So let me know your thoughts on this bracket. What did I get right? What did I get wrong? Which album do you think was the best album in this bracket, or from the years 2020 to 2023? Let me know your thoughts, feelings in the comment section. Again, please feel to smash the like button and the subscribe button. This is my bracket. These are my thoughts. Stay blessed.